Live in San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready?
Let's get it on.
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We haven't been here in a couple of weeks, and we got a lot to talk about this week, as most weeks. We're going to also have Christopher Daniels, Fallen Angel, in the second hour as our special guest. First hour, we'll be taking your phone calls on whatever subject you would like to discuss about the current scene in professional wrestling, and there is a lot of stuff to talk about. We can talk about WWF and PTC. That lawsuit was settled just before, well, not just before, but a couple of weeks or so before it was supposed to go to trial. And for $3.5 million, the libel suit, kind of a surprise settlement, and kind of a big black eye for L. Brent Bozell as that thing went down, because he has no one to blame but himself, and we will talk about that with Brian Alvarez after this first break. Also, Kevin Nash was injured on Monday, and the entire industry is in major jeopardy in WWE. Vince Russo took over as Jerry Jarrett's assistant, booking for NWA TNA on Tuesday of this week. He was he was working for WWF for all of, what was it, like 2 weeks? 2.5 weeks? And switched over, and that caused quite a bit of controversy. Last night was the UFC from London, England, and the big experiment from last night was what would weekly television mean for the UFC, and I think the experiment was pretty much of a success because they had a pretty smart crowd there, and all the fighters were treated like they were television stars as opposed to just fight. And of course, that's they've been having weekly on one of the Sky channels. I think it was Sky One. And the last week before the UFC, they were having 2-hour specials every single night, so it was a real big deal. Very successful show overall, and we can talk more about that. Matt Hughes beating Carlos Newton in the main event to retain the welterweight championship. And also, the last time we were on 2 weeks ago tonight on live was the night of the Pride pay-per-view and the Don Fry Yoshihiro Takayama match. And I had not seen it, and Brian was watching it while we were on the air. And that thing was frickin' amazing. That was one of the greatest fights I have ever seen. It might have been the greatest fight in my entire life. I don't know what to say about it. But anyway, we can talk about all of these subjects, and we're going to get back to talking about them. Or any subject you want to talk about. WWE Confidential, the state of the WWE. Rock returned Thursday, ratings in the toilet. So much more to talk about. We'll be back with Brian Alvarez right after this for Live Radio Network.
Time for more Wrestling Observer Live. Email the show now or anytime at WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. That's WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. Now back to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We'll be taking your calls for this first hour. Second hour, Christopher Daniels, probably the most sought-after free agent, at least free agent who's never been a former WWF superstar, on the market, and we'll be talking about NWA TNA, Japan, and all of the travels in between that Christopher Daniels goes on. Brian, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good.
Brian, what was your thought Tuesday when the news came out that Jerry Jarrett had officially hired Vince Russo, who was working for WWE up until the night before?
Well, I was actually kind of in a good mood about it. It sounds horrible, but as much as I've liked some of the TNA shows, and we got some great feedback this week, and they've had some awesome main events, I think the business plan is flawed, and I think it's going to die. And I think that Vince Russo is better off being with a promotion that's going to die than being with the WWF and speeding up its demise.
Okay. Actually, I thought very similar. But I'll tell you what, I felt really sorry for a lot of the people working for NWA TNA, though, because there's going to be, just bringing Vince Russo aboard, the guy's so controversial for good reason. And a lot of the people in that office worked with Vince Russo. And I would say, with the exception of Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Jarrett, I would think they all hated him. And now they all have to pretend that they like him. And it's going to be a pretty interesting game going on. Plus, you've got the philosophical situation where what has made that promotion, what a lot of people have liked about the promotion, which is, the good wrestling in the main events, especially the X Division matches, is stuff that, Vince Russo doesn't believe in 20-minute matches. He's saying he likes the X Division, but he doesn't believe in 20-minute matches, and he believes in a lot of the comedy. Now, the stuff that Russo did on Wednesday Night Show I thought was mostly pretty good. But, again, like Jasmine St. Clair, I think there's about maybe one skit in her lifetime that was good, and we saw it on Wednesday night. I think that when they try to do it again, it probably won't.
You actually have to give Vince Russo credit, though, for being an incredible self-promoter. Because, he went...
I've always credited him for that ever since he left WWF.
I think he's even more incredible now, though, because
he has to overcome his... Yeah, go ahead.
Track record that he had.
He has to overcome...
To in the past 2 weeks being hired by WWE and NWA TNA.
And both wanted him, and it's funny because, NWA TNA wanted him from day one, even though they were always denying it because of the legal situation. He ended up getting himself in this thing where Time Warner, said that they would defend him in the lawsuit, the Hulk Hogan lawsuit, even if he worked for Vince McMahon, which, of course, then would also allow him to work for Jerry Jarrett. So he was sitting there working for Vince McMahon, getting a paycheck for basically critiquing Raw and SmackDown, which is funny because there's like 6 zillion people who actually do that for free now. And maybe many of whom know a lot more about wrestling than Vince Russo. But he got himself a job there. And then he ended up, the one thing I think that it shows about both Vince McMahon and Jerry Jarrett, though, is that no matter what they publicly will say, both are very scared and desperate men.
Yeah. Because I would say Vince more than Jerry, but when that first buy rate number comes in, that could change.
Well, the real buy rate. It could change depending on what it really is, and we can talk a lot more about that. Also, you wrote something today about the Figure 4 this week about the PC and the WWF and being surprised, I guess, about the verdict. And the out-of-court settlement before the verdict, El Brent Bozell paying WWE $3.5 million, which is going to make their next quarter look not so bad. All of a sudden, which was looking like...
amazing because that always happens.
In what sense?
I'm just always expecting for like the last year now.
Oh, that they were going to have a really...
Yeah, this quarterly report to come out that's just a complete disaster. And then every time it comes out, it's like, wow, they did real good.
Yeah. Well, this one's going to be pretty tough when you're going from 6,000 people at the arenas to 2,000 people at the arenas or 3,000. It's going to show. But also, well, one of the things about that lawsuit is that this lawsuit was lost by the PTC out of pure and total stupidity because they had no business losing this thing because, fair comment is fair comment. And the only way they ever could have lost, they could have said anything they wanted because Vince McMahon's a public figure practically, as long as they didn't blatantly lie and disregard the truth. And for God knows what reason, they decided to do that. And, they got what they deserved, so to speak.
Yeah. I was shocked because I was reading your thing on it, and I guess WWF was originally asking in the suit for $55 million.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow.
Well, that number probably scared them enough to settle out of court. Well, the lawyers told them, you're going to,
Yeah, plus they had the insurance cover it, so.
Yeah, I know. They didn't even get hurt.
Yeah.
So, you do. Anyway.
It was funny, too, because there's that thing about how basically L. Brent Bozell III had to write a public apology to Vince McMahon and World Wrestling Entertainment, and because of the settlement, it has to appear on their website for 6 months. And I read this in this newspaper article last week, so I thought, well, I'll go up to the website and get the entire statement, because they didn't have the entire statement in the article. So I go up there to the website, and I swear to you, it took me about 5 minutes to find that statement, because it was buried down there at the bottom, amongst everything else, and I thought, wow, it'll be there for 6 months, but no one will ever see it.
No, but every wrestling fan saw it that wanted to see it.
Yeah.
Because WWE put it on their website, or put a lot of it on there. Anyway, let's go to Staten Island, New York with Roy. You're going to be our first caller. What's going on?
Hi, Dave and Brian. Great show as always.
Thank you.
Brian, I read on the internet that Nash got injured because Booker T gave him a reach around. Is that true?
Let's go to Alan in Deerfield, Florida.
Hey,
what's going on? Hey, Alan.
Hey, I wanted to ask you about, I heard that Jimmy Snuka is going to be indicted for Nazi Argentina murder.
No.
Or something to that effect.
Absolutely no. That's like 20 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah.
I think the statute of limitations, actually on a murder case it may not, but no, that thing's long been, that the case has long been closed and settled. It was 20 years ago.
I don't know.
Or not quite 20, but probably like 17 years ago.
Somebody said something about that, I guess, but that's the internet for you. But let me ask you about the sex lies.
Yes.
Who is it that beat up Brian Pillman backstage? They mentioned that in the book, I'm sure.
It never happened. It was guys were talking about beating up Brian Pillman backstage. Nobody ever did.
Oh, I misconstrued that.
No one ever did.
They were threatening him.
I don't know if they were threatening him as much as they talked among each other, like, God, Brian is, like, really screwing up. What are we going to do? Hey, maybe we should beat him up.
Right.
I don't even know Brian ever heard that because, during that decline of Brian Pillman, I talked to him constantly, and if he ever heard about it, he sure never told me.
Right, you're saying the decline of Pillman. But I'm saying, like, when he was going off the deep end and stuff, most of that was a work, right?
Oh, boy.
Stuff on TV?
The stuff on TV was a work.
No, I'm talking about behind the scenes.
Actually, a lot of behind the scenes was a work, too. And what was and what wasn't, I don't even think he knows. I think he got caught up in his character so much that he became his work.
That's interesting. So
it was scary.
To get that caught up in your character, I almost think you have to be self-destructing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Andy Kaufman was the same way.
Yeah.
Really? So as far as the book, I mean, it's a tremendous book, but I'm saying also they talked about Flair and the situation between him and Bischoff and Dusty Rhodes and all those things.
Yeah, that's a good book.
Yeah, it's a tremendous book.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Did you watch Confidential with Snuka, by the way?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Was it any good?
No, but I think like the big deal was that he mentioned, had a cocaine problem in the 80s.
Oh, there's that little bit of truth on there.
A little bit of truth, and then but everybody was going, well, they're going to mention Nancy Argentina, and of course it was never mentioned once. And I was shocked. Basically, the whole segment. So you didn't see it?
Well, I have it on tape, but I wasn't sure if I should watch it because
the whole segment was like Matt Hardy and D'Lo Brown and a lot of the guys, Tommy Dreamer, all talking about how Snuka was the innovator. When he jumped off the cage, and they all remembered it. Hey, I grew up watching it, and I'll never forget that spot either. And they showed the spot where he jumped off the cage on Don Morocco. And, we were watching, because I had, a whole bunch of friends over last night for the UFC. And, boy, everyone remembered that. And they just, Jimmy Snuka was like a god to these people, which is kind of funny.
Think about that, too, because he just showed age. I'm not downplaying anything that he did, but look at some of the things that these guys do. Who in 20 years is going to remember Jeff Hardy doing a senton off the cage and almost killing himself?
Or Chris Benoit doing the headbutt off the cage.
Yeah, they'll all remember Mick Foley going off the cage. And
because that thing's been replayed 400 times.
Yeah, but other than that, everything else just forgotten.
Do you think anyone's going to remember any of those balcony dives that New Jack did?
No.
No. I don't think so either. Let's go to Ed in San Antonio. Ed, what's going on?
Hey, guys. What I want to talk to you about is the NWA title match from this past week.
The one with Takao Omori and Ken Shamrock.
Yes. What were the politics involved for no one not allowing their competitor to lose clean?
They just sent word that it had to be a no contest. So their hands were in NWA TNA's fault. Other than that, they probably should have settled it before booking the match.
Just gonna say that's something you should probably get out of the way before you agree to bring the guy over from Japan.
Yeah.
Well, considering that it's Ken Shamrock and he's a name in Japan and it's NWA, I figured that it would be all right for him to lose.
I would have thought that too, and I think they would have thought that too. But the day came and they had to rebook it.
Okay, and I want to ask you another question about Ron Waterman.
Okay, yeah, real quick.
Okay, like he was mentioning, he wanted to go to New Japan. Mm-hmm. How does a wrestler with not that much name exposure get a job in New Japan?
Lucky and the right friends if he's Danny Devine's there all the time. He had less experience than Ron Waterman. We got to head to a break. We will be back with more. You're listening to the Wrestle Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER. That's 1-866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and Brian Alvarez with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And we're here every 2 hours, Sunday night, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time with Wrestling Observer Live. And if you're interested in either the Wrestling Observer newsletter or Figure 4 Weekly publications, they cover everything going on in the world of pro wrestling. You can go to WrestlingObserver.com. We also have daily news updates, a lot of features, and a lot of other stuff during the week. So you can always go to the website, get info on getting both of the newsletters, and you'll be the most informed wrestling fan, not only in your block, but perhaps in your city. Anyway, Brian.
Especially if you're in Winville.
Yeah, probably. Brian, what Monday night Kevin Nash has been out of action for about 3 months with a torn bicep, and it's somewhat the last minute. He didn't know until he got to the building that he was going to have to wrestle. They set up a 10-man tag. They didn't tell him ahead of time. He actually had to have his gear shipped from his home up to where was that show on Monday night? I don't even remember. Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he got it shipped up to Philadelphia, and in the first, right after doing a high kick to Booker T went down. Kevin Nash kind of stumbled, planted his left leg, and boom, his left quad blew out, and he was under the operating table with Dr. Jim Andrews the next day, and he's out of action. They're saying 6 months. I have a feeling it's going to be longer than 6 months. And quite frankly, I do believe that Kevin Nash wants to come back and will come back, because who wants to end your career, with that sound? I mean, but I wonder, even if he does come back, I mean, he's probably just going to get hurt again.
Yeah. I was actually amused reading all the stuff about, people put blame on various people.
The Brian Gewirtz stuff. Oh, let me say that. Let me break in. That stuff where people blame Brian Gewirtz is the biggest bunch of hooey I have ever read in my life.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing to me is, okay, Kevin Nash was out with an injured bicep, and he got hurt in his first match back because he was rushed to TV or whatever. He didn't injure his bicep. He injured his quad. And he injured his quad, and I hate to downplay this injury, but he was walking, and he blew his quad out. And that could have happened on any day, in any city, in any match, at any time. And to blame anybody for that, I mean, you can't blame Kevin Nash. You can't blame anybody. If you want to blame God, that's one thing. But aside from that, you can't blame anybody for that injury, because it was just a freak thing that happened.
It was, but what Kevin Nash has done probably didn't help it. But it could have happened on any day. No. If it didn't happen, and the fact is, he was medically cleared to go. He was going to start wrestling on Friday, so instead of his first match being on Friday, it was on Monday. The odds are, if he was going to blow his quad out by taking a step, it could have easily happened on Friday night, Saturday night. The bottom line is, if he was,
happened in the airport.
If he tripped over somebody.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but you're right. Anything else you want to add to the Kevin Nash story?
I think I sent you this email right after the show, but I thought Shawn Michaels did the most tremendous job on that show, because he was standing out there, he was standing out there on the apron doing absolutely nothing, and his friend, or the guy he calls his best friend, went down in the line of duty, and everybody else in the ring, there's 10 guys in the ring, two of them are two of the best workers you'll ever see, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. It's not like they totally lost it, but
you've left out X-Pac.
Yeah, the match completely fell apart. And Shawn Michaels, I mean, he didn't even miss a beat. He didn't go over to check on Nash. He just went to save the match, and he pretty much did.
He pretty much saved the match. It's too bad he wasn't in that mixed tag earlier in the show.
Huh?
Too bad he wasn't in that mixed tag earlier in the show.
Ringside, he would have saved that one as well, I think.
That was unbelievable. I mean,
they totally lost it. But
you've left out X-Pac.
Yeah, the match completely fell apart. And Shawn Michaels, I mean, he didn't even miss a beat. He didn't go over to check on Nash. He just went to save the match, and he pretty much did.
He pretty much saved the match. It's too bad he wasn't in that mixed tag earlier in the show.
Huh?
Too bad he wasn't in that mixed tag earlier in the show.
Ringside, he would have saved that one as well, I think.
That was unbelievable. I mean, for those of you who did not watch Raw on Monday night,
you missed the worst match in history.
Oh my God, poor, what?
That's horrible.
Was they ripping her?
Yeah, that's as bad as ripping Brian Gewirtz.
Yeah, no, but I mean, she was real bad in that match. I mean, she was. It just reminded me of someone who just panicked, and then everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. That one spot, there was a spot there. I would describe it for you, but I have no idea what it was.
What it was? I think Trish was supposed to run at her, and Jackie would throw her over the top rope. But Jackie forgot, so Trish just ran past her and started jumping over the top rope.
But you know what?
She hadn't been touched. They just fell down.
The thing about that, though, is at the end of the match, okay, the one who was the one who blew all the spots was Jackie Gata, but the one who was also Jackie Gata, because on that missed Bulldog spot, she knew enough to kick out because the spot was botched, and Trish Stratus didn't know enough to go over, and the ref still counted 3.
I don't know if she didn't know enough or she just wanted to end the thing.
Yeah, that could be too. You're Jim Ross.
I know.
This merciful ending. Oh, my God.
Jim Ross was psychic, because as Jackie's come down to the ring, he went on this long thing about, these young kids are green and they're going to make some mistakes and this and that. And I just was thinking, why are they here then? Why are they on Raw right now? I mean, I cannot hold anything against Jackie Gata because, seriously, what do you expect? This girl trained and toughened up for 11 weeks, and they threw her on TV in front of a national live audience on Raw. This wasn't SmackDown where they could, edit. This was on a live show, and, what do you expect? Something like this is going to happen. How can you even blame her? I blame whoever put her in the ring.
I guess all the blame ends up going to Vince McMahon. We're going to go to John in Chicago. John, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Going back to the young talent, did you happen to read the Ross report?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
I always read the Ross report.
It seems like him and I know you guys have a little, I don't know what you would call it, with OneWrestling.com.
We don't have anything with OneWrestling.com. That's a myth.
Okay.
I mean,
show today, it'll be on OneWrestling.com.
No, but seriously, I mean, like.
But it seems he's like running some commentary against him, like Dave Scherer,
He's not writing anything about me.
No, but it's just like.
I don't think. I mean, maybe he is. I don't think.
His people with inside sources talking about, certain aspects of the WWE.
I think he's writing about people with inside sources that don't know what they're talking about. And you can you can label whoever you want on that one, but I don't think he means me.
But one thing I'm wondering, he's talking in the report. He's talking about the young talent needs to step up. Okay.
Yes.
Isn't the problem is the young talent is being put on there, either they're too green, or when they are shown to be, we've got something here, maybe we should build on it. They're always having their legs cut underneath them by the so-called veterans, in the back, or by the people who are booking the whole situation there. I just happened to come across the most recent newsletter, and I was looking at that, and I'm like, why would people? And I'm talking about, I guess, Triple H or some other people like that. Why are they cutting? Why is Vince allowing this to be happening? I mean, I understand that he has certain, the veterans, but you're looking at the future of the damn company here.
Well, I don't think he gets it. I mean, if Hunter comes up to Vince and goes, "Look, this thing with John Cena slapping you, nobody should touch you until SummerSlam when you have your match with Hogan."
Right.
And I can see Vince thinking,
that makes sense.
He's right.
Right.
No one should be touching me until. I don't think Vince goes, "Hunter is trying to hold this young man down."
But that's just one example. But I mean, we've had there's numerous of stuff, and even if you don't understand, even if you don't hear the stuff as far as what happens backstage, you can tell by just looking at the programming, just looking at like what Chris Jericho went through the first 3 months of this year as the undisputed champion. If you're going to push him, why are you putting him in this dog angle with, why are you making him lesser than his supposed manager,
Well, I mean, it's a problem.
Well, Stephanie.
It's a problem. It's a problem with the writing. But ultimately, a lot of people are down on the writers, and maybe they should be. But ultimately, I think that to an extent, a lot of the writers are getting I don't want to say a bad rap, but they're getting an unfair blame because the buck stops with Vince McMahon.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, there's not
one thing about that though, and that is that I think the writers. If I'm wrong here, you can correct me, but I think the writers write the show, and then Vince goes over it and tweaks things or whatever.
Or throws out things he doesn't want.
Yeah, I don't think that Vince writes an outline of the entire show, and then they write it, and then they bring it back to him, and he goes over it like a second time.
No, you're right how you're describing it.
So they're writing the show, and I don't think Vince would ever go up to him and go, "Look, you need to rewrite this entire show because this sucks."
And from what I've always heard is that he's not interested in the lower card guys anyway.
Well, he needs to be. But the thing is that there is not a segment on Raw or SmackDown that is not approved by Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
So if somebody writes something really bad, it is Vince McMahon's job to say, "This is really bad. Take it off and put something else in." And that happens. And that happens pretty much every week.
Maybe he doesn't know what's bad. I mean, he segments where he's kissing young women who are like.
Well, I think they're writing that. I think they're writing that for his benefit and not ours.
But real quick, Dave.
Okay, make it very quick because we got to get out of here.
Kevin Nash. I know there was very little sympathy as far as his injury and everything.
There's plenty of sympathy. There really is.
I'm just wondering, I mean, do you think he's going to be back faster than the vanilla midget that he talked about, Chris Benoit, who came back from a neck injury?
Benoit was a year. I think Nash may make it back quicker than a year because his injury is not quite, isn't the surgery isn't quite as bad. Anyway, you're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.
This is Big John McCarthy of the UFC, and you're listening to the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here for 2 hours every Sunday night here on Sports Byline and Rex Broadcasting affiliates. And we're going to be joined in our second hour by Christopher Daniels, probably one of the leading independent wrestlers in the country, maybe the leading independent wrestler in the country, and probably one of the best all-around wrestlers that is not in the World Wrestling Entertainment. In World Wrestling Entertainment, I have to get used to that one. Anywhere around, at least in the United States. We'll be talking to him about the trials and tribulations of being Curry Man in Japan and an independent superstar, of being a superstar known by some fans, able to walk through airports and people don't recognize you as a professional wrestler, and therefore, you know about that walking through airports thing. That's the star maker, isn't it?
It really is.
Yes.
Although it didn't do it for Jake.
Jake Roberts?
No, remember Jake on Tough Enough?
Jake from Tough Enough.
Everybody asked him if he was a WWF wrestler.
And if he knew how to wrestle, he would be.
That's right.
I'll tell you what. You know, when we saw Jackie Gata, okay, now think about this for all you people who were mad about Jake. She was much better than Jake. In fact, so much better that there was, from what I understood, there was not even a comparison between her skill level and Jake's. Okay, now Kenny already, he was a better worker than Jackie Gata, but, you know, he didn't have boobs, so that hurt him. But
you know what's weird, though, about that whole thing is you were just mentioning that if he wrestled, he would have a job. And, I don't know. The thing is, I watch HWA TV, and Johnny the Bull is so horrible. He is so horrible. And I hope he's not listening, because he'd kill me, but he's just terrible. And I was reading the Raw report, and, you know, they released
Chad Collier and Ron Waterman.
Chad Collier and Ron Waterman. And ironically, Chad Collier was on the show that I watched last night, and he is a freaking good wrestler. But he does not have Johnny the Bull's body. Therefore, he is done for. And
doesn't Chad Collier's got a good body? He's just short, right?
He's got a good body, but he's got a good Dean Malenko body.
Yeah. Well, he's a Dean Malenko guy.
That nobody's going to look at on TV. That guy is huge, like they will for Johnny the Bull.
Well, part of the reason that Chad Collier got released is because, you know, he was going to go to Japan. But no, you're right about that, though. You know, and we're going to see a lot of that. You know, there's going to be a lot of questions about talent that's brought up. I mean, hey, you know, you wrote it. I've written it too. You know, Christopher Nowinski. I like his gimmick. I like his look. People know who he is. But my God, he's not ready.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt Angle was pretty damn good from day one. But imagine if after 11 weeks he was on TV.
He'd have been okay. I saw him at that period. I mean, he wouldn't have been ready. But he'd have been
a bad example.
Okay, that's the worst example possible, actually, because now The Rock.
Okay, The Rock. There you go.
The Rock. That would have been a better example because I saw The Rock. Although he wasn't that bad at 11.
Pick any top guy right now. How about Hunter?
At 11 weeks, oh, he really wouldn't have been ready.
He'd be done for.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go to Matt in Boston. Matt, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. Hey, Brian.
Hey.
I want to ask you quickly about Muto and his retirement talk. Is that just an angle to sell tickets?
Not after he does those 3 matches.
Those are going to be horrible.
3 in one night. I think, you know, he's already regretting it, that he backed himself into that one. But now he's got to do it. It's 3 matches on the 20th.
I also want to talk quickly about WWF, which I rarely do. But I read this week's Observer and about Triple H and his basically vetoing of John Cena's...
Vince McMahon did. Triple H just gave Vince McMahon the idea.
Yeah, but would Vince have come up with without Triple H?
Probably not.
No.
So, yeah. Triple H really needs to learn that there will be no fans to cheer him if there's no, new talent up top. So it's pointless for him to even ever not allow someone to get pushed up. Jericho's an example, and probably many others. Triple H is really a despicable human being as far as I'm concerned as of late, and I really am tired of him.
But you know what? Okay. Look at the lessons that the wrestling business teaches you. Okay, Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash is the one who he's the one. He's made more money doing less than anyone in this business except for maybe Sting. Okay, And Kevin Nash did all of these things, and the company went out of business. And guess who came in, with the exception of Hogan, with the highest downside guarantee of all the WCW guys, and with the best contract and with the fewest dates? Kevin Nash. So what does that tell you?
The smart guy.
That the guy, it's like, and after how many times were we told that, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would never be brought in because we don't want that cancer in the locker room. And then when they were brought in, every single thing that we could have feared would have happened. But when Kevin Nash comes back, do you think that he's going to be cut? Because he's not.
Oh, of course not. No.
There you go.
But, I would almost think that Hunter would have learned by now that you only make big money if there's a ton of people, buying the shows and showing up or whatever. And if you're top guy and no one's showing up at the events and you have nobody to work and business falls because of it, you're making less money.
That's true. You're right, but I think you're thinking one step deeper than they are. Their thinking is, it's like there's only a few spots on top. There's 5 spots, let's say, that are the top spots in the company. And if somebody gets to one of those top spots, let's say that decreases my odds of holding it by a lot.
Yeah, I understand why he does, keep his spot and everything, but there's not going to be, how long is all these guys going to stay around there? Are they leaving in droves?
They're leaving in droves now.
Yeah, I don't know what the guy's thinking.
Just a little farther ahead.
Yeah. But no, here's the other thing. We're talking about professional wrestling. Nobody thinks more than 3 weeks ahead in this business anyway. If they did, WCW would still be in business because they'd have figured out what they were doing wrong in 98 when they were still on top.
Yeah. But what's funny is when WCW was falling, I think if you would have interviewed Hunter back then, he would have said all this stuff. Oh, they need to create new stars. These top guys, you just have to blah, 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 blah. Now it's happening, and, totally different.
Yeah, but so did everyone else in WWF. They all said the same thing about what WCW should do. So they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to Ernie in San Diego. Ernie, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
I just had a comment on the whole Vince Russo thing.
Yes.
Just real quick. I got to go against your guys' opinions as far as Vince Russo.
And tell me why.
I think he was great at what he did, which is coming up with ideas. Vince McMahon is great at recognizing good ideas.
Really?
Not in the last 18 months. He's not.
Well, obviously not, because he doesn't have many good people to give him good ideas. I mean,
he's got smart. Hey, Heyman's smarter than Russo. So
Heyman had a lot of good. Heyman does have good ideas, and some of the stuff he's doing. I mean, some of the stuff they're doing is entertaining. It just so happens that the stuff that's on the downside is so bad that it just makes the whole show look bad. I mean, Russo had bad ideas, and in WCW it was obvious because all his ideas were coming out.
He didn't have
the bad ones. Even if he had a good one, it looked bad because the rest of the show was bad.
Yeah.
So when he had one bright spot, which is a good idea, that because he comes up with so many ideas, makes it. I mean, Vince McMahon is a genius at doing that.
He was. That's the important part. Was, and I would agree. You can never deny from '97 through '99, that period when Vince McMahon and Vince Russo worked together, that they turned that business around. They saved that company. But they also had Steve Austin and The Rock and people like that that were in the ring doing it. And it was a combination of Mick Foley, a lot of things that were there. But Vince Russo was very effective in that role. He was also very ineffective in his subsequent roles.
Yeah. But I think Russo's biggest problem is that he has a lot of creative ideas, but he has no understanding of very basic, the most basic wrestling booking that there is. And I don't know if he wrote the Brian Christopher thing at the NBA pay-per-view on Wednesday, but Brian Christopher came out and he's cutting a promo on Jerry Lawler. He's not even with the company, and they will never have a match together on NWA. And I just sat there thinking, why the hell would you do this?
Yeah.
What's the point?
He's definitely easy to blame, I'll tell you that. One other quick question. What happened with the Shane twins and the NWA tag team title?
They just threw it down because they, all the NWA titles that Jerry Jarrett wanted, which were, he didn't want the junior heavyweight title because he created his own X title. But the heavyweight title in the tag was the Shane twins had them, so they basically were going to have to vacate them, and so they just threw them down. So that's the story.
Oh, okay. All right. That's all I want to know. Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, let's go to Tim in El Paso, Texas. Tim, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Dave, I just got a quick question.
Sure.
Who do you think would win in a race, a Hogan-Flair match or Bob Ryder's Metabolism?
I don't know. Let's go to Jesse in Seattle. Jesse.
Hello, how are you today?
Doing fine.
I don't mean to sidetrack your question here, but who are all of these nosy people, outside influences I'm seeing around you by the moon card.
This is amazing night. Let's go to Dan in Chicago. Dan, what's going on? Let's see if we can get an intelligent conversation.
I'll be cool, don't worry. All right, I got an interesting comment to make. What if, let's say, the next Raw is really horrible, and let's say the next SmackDown or the next pay-per-view is horrible? What would happen if the fans decided to, like baseball, they were talking about the fans, not going to the games. What would happen if the fans went on strike? What would happen to the WWE then?
It couldn't happen because the fans couldn't organize. There's no way of organizing. I mean, the baseball fans can't organize, and the wrestling fans.
Well, just not show up to the games is what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you get the word out? I mean, there's no way. There's no way to get. You couldn't do it. It'd be impossible.
Like every single solitary fan just decides not to go.
Right.
Yeah, well,
you're kind of seeing it now where attendance is down to 2,000, so you are seeing a lot of fans doing that. But
it's not an organized thing. They're just doing it because they just don't feel like buying tickets.
They don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't see how you could organize, every single solitary fan.
You can't boycott. You can't organize a boycott of wrestling. It would never work.
It was just a thought I had,
Okay.
The other thing is I saw Jack Collier at MCW over here in Streamwood. He didn't really impress me too much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he like the first person I thought of was what you said about Dean Malenko. He looked like a Dean Malenko type wrestler.
But that still puts him ahead of Johnny the Bull.
It does. That was the point I was trying to make.
That which was the point Brian was making.
Okay. The other thing is too, I like Christopher Nowinski. I like his head. I like how his
I do too. He's just not ready for the big time.
You don't think so?
Absolutely.
I have a feeling. I think he'll do fine.
He may do fine, but he's not ready yet. Hey, listen, I like Jackie Gata. I think that she's got a great look, and I think she's got great fire. But clearly, Monday showed she's not ready for the WWE.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with that. And can I talk about Kevin Nash if I could?
Sure.
A little disappointed in him. How would you feel? Another theory I have. He didn't seem like he wanted to wrestle Monday on just the way he talked.
I don't think he ever really feels like wrestling.
Okay, personally,
$700,000, so you kind of do what you're asked.
I mean, you're out 3 months.
For the most point.
Used to being out, But do you think he did that to himself on purpose?
No, absolutely not. You never try to give yourself surgery. Absolutely. Especially 43-year-old guy, you want to rip a muscle? No way.
Okay.
No way.
It just kind of looked suspicious to me for some.
Well, it's because he didn't really do a lot to get hurt.
Right.
I mean, he just stepped down. But no, you don't want it. You don't.
Okay.
No.
All right, guys. I hope the rest of your night goes smoothly with the callers. Oh, one thing. Can you ask Christopher Daniels if he's going to be at the MCW show here in Streamwood? Because I heard something that he might be.
Okay, well, we'll ask him about MCW among many other things.
All
sure.
Right, thanks, bye.
Okay, we've got to head to a commercial break right now. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Time for more Wrestling Observer Live. Email the show now or anytime at WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. That's WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. Now, back to Dirk and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're here for 2 hours every Sunday night, and we're going to get to one phone call before we have to take our hourly break. Don't forget, second hour, Christopher Daniels will be with us, so we will be got a lot of talk to him about. Let's go to Dominic in Musina, New York. Dominic, how are you tonight?
How are we doing, guys? First and foremost, Dave, I just got your tributes book. Phenomenal read. I commend you on the work you did there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
First and foremost, you're talking about why Johnny the Bull is there. There's two guys I'm wondering why they haven't been called up yet. And see if you guys know it, the Easy Money and Steve Bradley. He's been there for 4 years. The kid should be ready by now.
And he is ready, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
far more ready than some guys.
I think he has almost a perfect angle just to get him in. Just have him coming in, beating up the Rob Conways and the Nick Dinsmore. Come out and just going on a promo saying, I've been through every friggin' AAA spot in here, and you guys have not called me up yet. I mean, to me, it'd be the perfect way to get him in right away. Just beat up everyone who's kind of, not everyone, but, enough of the guys who've been called up.
Maven, Jackie.
Oh, yeah.
But Maven's doing good, though.
Yeah, but he can still get beaten up for getting there before.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Just like all those guys that in there. Also, I want to talk to the NWA TNA. Another fantastic week of showing. If anybody who runs a cable company, pick them up right away. I mean, it's the second show I've gotten. I got the first show and this show. I was set 5 minutes after maybe the second or third match show. The work they've done, the angles are actually, they're not dumbing the audience. Perfect example when the whole Jarrett and whoever the NWA president guy that was there, it wasn't seem like it's everything was written down and made it look like he's actually talking to him about everything. It doesn't dumb the audience, which is one thing I've really liked that they've been doing.
Well, they have...
Not Don West.
Well, okay, Don West, yeah, the guy makes him, Steve McMiles looks like Gordon Sully compared to him. Someone shoot him, kill him. Also, another thing.
Make it really quick because we got to head to our hourly break.
They should make Ed Ferrara the biggest face on God's green earth for spearing, well, I said Brad Miller, whatever his name is, for
Bill Behrens.
to jump in with that. That's almost like Goldberg could have been the biggest heel of all time. That's the first Russo show where the girl is going to pull, and he comes out and spears them. He could have been the biggest heel in the whole company after that act right there.
Yeah, that was some really good timing, and that was something that, Russo put that one all together. That was all Russo. Anyway, we have got to head to our hourly break. We'll be back for our second hour with Chris Daniels. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Okay, welcome to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez, editor of Figure 4 Weekly. We're going to be joined by Christopher Daniels in about 15 minutes, and we'll be taking your calls on a wide variety of subjects regarding pro wrestling all over the world. Brian, what were you just saying?
Oh, nothing.
Okay. Brian, have you read Sex, Lies, and Sex, Lies, and Headlocks?
No, I haven't got it yet.
You haven't gotten that? Good book. For those of you who have not seen the book, I guess it officially comes out on the 16th, but I know it's been in some bookstores already because some people have called me up and telling me how much they enjoyed the book. It's basically a history of the last 20 years or so in the pro wrestling industry, with not too much on the last 2 or 3. So it's kind of a lot on 1984 through about 1999. But
you could write a book on the last 3.
Easily.
Several books.
I bet the one thing. Well, think of Bret Hart.
He's actually doing it.
Bret Hart. Oh my God! I was talking. He was like trying to think of like where he should cut off his first book because it's definitely gonna be more than one book. And I go, you should probably go up until cut off the first book in 1992 when you win the
He's actually doing it.
Bret Hart. Oh my God! I was talking. He was like trying to think of like where he should cut off his first book because it's definitely gonna be more than one book. And I go, you should probably go up until cut off the first book in 1992 when you win the world. You end the first book when you win the world title from Ric Flair. So it's 1992, and then do the second book from 1992 to the 80 pages. I can't go to. That thing is going to be like triple War and Peace when that thing finally comes.
I was on our show the first time. He made some comment about 500 pages in, and I think I'm at 1979. And I went, well.
And I just had my first pro match. Oh my God! Do you realize like that book when that thing's said and done? I mean, that guy's story. I mean, just the last 5 years is like 2 books alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God! Anyway, we're gonna go try to head to. No, we're not going to head to one phone call. Brian, really quick. I mean, I know you haven't seen the UFC, but what were your thoughts on Brian Takayama?
Oh my God, that was. That's one of those fights where whenever I want to convince somebody that they should watch Pride with me, I want to make them watch. Actually, maybe that would be a bad idea, but show them that match because.
But then they'll never like another match after that.
Nothing will ever compare again. But at least you'll convert them the first time.
Do you know what is amazing? I emailed you about this during the week that some people on the mixed martial arts websites are trying to say that fight had to be worked.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord! I mean, did you see that guy's face when it was over? It's like the idea of working, just for people who don't know.
So you don't get hurt.
Is so you don't get hurt. Exactly.
You know what's funny, though, is in the last few years, at least some styles of wrestling, that's not the point of working anymore.
You're right as far as... Yeah, but not to get your face pounded into that degree.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER. That's 1-866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here for 2 hours every Sunday night here on Sports Byline USA, as well as our Rex Broadcasting affiliates. And we also have with us right now is Christopher Daniels. Chris, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Chris, you know, of course, Christopher Daniels wrestling all over, literally all over the world, and wrestling Wednesday night on the NWA TNA pay-per-view in a tag match with Elix Skipper against the Flying Elvises, and coming off of an incredible match on Wednesday night, this past Wednesday, with Low Key and several others, as far as in the X Division match, which pretty much stole the show and pretty much was the best NWA TNA show up to this point. You know, Chris, if I was you, okay, I thought about, if I was you, as good as you are, do you ever get the thought, like, at this stage of your career where now, hopefully with this NWA TNA, you're going to get a real break? Does it ever occur to you that, like, I am going to show all these people who said that I was too this or too that or too this or too that, and why I wouldn't make it, that, screw them, I can and I can be a star?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I try not to let that get into me, because it's when you start weighing those options like that and thinking, why haven't I made it? Why haven't I gotten this break? I try not to get that negative thinking going. But when these breaks come along, I try to make the best of each one, and hopefully, if they give me a chance to talk, if they give me a chance to wrestle and do what I can do, I feel like I am going to show the people that maybe didn't think I was big enough or charismatic enough or whatever their arguments were for why I haven't had the shot yet. And especially now with NWA TNA, I'm hoping that I get those breaks and hopefully it'll turn into something long term.
Now, what's your like for the next couple of months? I mean, do you have any Japanese tours coming up? And what's the situation? I know you just got back from New Japan a couple of weeks ago.
My schedule, I've got a couple more shows in the States up until the end of July, and then in August I'm going to Japan pretty much for the whole month. I've got the summer tour for Michinoku, and then there's a TV taping at the Budokan for New Japan that I'll be taking part in. So I'll be back in the States again in September, and back to the indie scene doing stuff like Ring of Honor and PWF and APW and all the other indie federations that I've been to before.
Now, politically, how does working with Michinoku Pro and New Japan, fit together? I mean, is it that do they kind of work together, or do you negotiate with both individually?
This first time I was contacted through Michinoku by New Japan. Hopefully, now that the first tour happened and I got a really good, a positive response from them, hopefully they will contact me and we'll negotiate my availability for them. But the thing about that is the Curryman gimmick is a Michinoku gimmick. So I don't think that they can contact me without Michinoku at least having some sort of say in it. So it's still like a 3-person committee on when Curryman will go to New Japan.
Why don't you explain to everybody what the Curryman gimmick is?
Well, apparently in Japan there's a cartoon called Kuruk. And the cartoon is a guy basically dressed in yellow with a plate of rice and curry on the top of his head. And Jinsei Shinzaki thought that would be a great gimmick, and Ted Tanabe, the referee over there, thought I would be a great curry man. And so they had a Masked Man tournament in '99, and they gave me the gimmick, and from there, for some reason it spread. I have no idea why it's such an over gimmick. I can't explain it to this day.
Part of it's, I think, your wrestling, and part of it is just
children love curry.
Yeah.
You know what? I honestly think it's just something different. I mean, I've seen a lot of the old Michinoku stuff where they had somewhat like many masked gimmicks. But I think I might have been the first guy that actually where they put good emphasis on wrestling and having like a silly gimmick on them. So I think it's just different from like Tiger Mask and Sasuke and Liger and all the different mask characters that are over there now.
It's almost like Shark Boy.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. That really is.
When you go to Japan, do you have any thoughts of wanting to go as Christopher Daniels as opposed to Curryman, or does it really even matter?
It doesn't matter. When I first started doing the Curryman and I realized that I was going to be doing Curryman for a while, You know, I had visions in my head of at some point maybe losing the mask to somebody and staying over there as Christopher Daniels. If it's getting me work over there and they like it and the fans like it, it's really not for me to say Christopher Daniels is better for New Japan than Curry Man or better for Michinoku. It's, you know, it's not up to me. It's up to what they want. And as long as the fans get behind it, there's no reason why the company should, you know, put the kibosh on it.
Do the magazines in Japan cover stuff that you do as Chris Daniels, or is Curry Man sort of kayfabed? You know what I mean?
You know what? I think the fans know who I am, and the magazines never gave it away, but somehow the fans kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
Because I'm approached all the time. I think it's just because I'm the only American guy. I'm pretty sure I realize that I'm not from India. You know what I mean? So I'm the only American guy walking around in the hotel after shows, and I think they all just put two and two together. The magazines cover me. Like there's been stuff when, like at King of the Indies, the Japanese photographers were there, and they had pictures of me. Some other shows in the States, they've been there, and I think they know who Christopher Daniels is. They just never say, by the way, he's going to be dressed in yellow next month. You know?
What's your thoughts? I mean, you probably have as much experience as almost anyone in the United States on the various indie promotions and their styles and stuff. What are the ones that you like to work for, and are there any experiences that you would like to avoid in the future as well?
Well, I think the thing that makes a good independent promotion, I guess last is the word, is the preparation that they put into it. A really good example would be Jim Kettner's ECWA, the Ring of Honor promotion that's just now kind of becoming the number one in the spotlight. These guys put so much effort into the planning of their shows, the talent that they get on it, the angles that they're trying to book, trying to build from the first show to the next. They only think of that show. Like the promoter's only thinking of that show, the talent's only thinking of that show. And, the next show, things are happening that have nothing to do with the first show. So I think it's just a matter of the people that think in the long term are the ones that last in the long term. So, like ECWA, APW was like that, I think. Definitely Ring of Honor. I mean, the stuff that they're doing now, I mean, people are... The product speaks for itself,
How physically hard is it for you to recover from a Ring of Honor match? Is it like really difficult, or is it just the kind of style that you like to do?
I don't really have any problem. It just depends on like the length, the people I'm working with. Like for example, the three-way that I did with Key and Dragon. Like the next day, I was doing the WWE pay-per-view. So it's not a matter of like the matches are too tough or the matches are a little more strenuous than anything else, because I try and put 100% into every match I have, whether it's Ring of Honor or PCW or PWF or whatever, So it's all the same to me physically.
As far what do you think as far as on the 27th? You're going to be doing a 60-minute four-way match. How is doing a 60-minute match going to be different? Although, I mean, in Ring of Honor, I saw you do a match that I think went, maybe 40, 45 minutes a couple of shows back.
Yeah, I think the three-way that we did for Ring of Honor was like a little bit longer than 35 minutes. And then we did a four-way, myself, Low-Key, American Dragon, and Scoot Andrews in ECWA that went like 45 minutes. So trick is not so much physical because we're all in good shape, and it's not a question of whether our stamina is a problem, or I think it's just a matter of telling the story and keeping the fans involved for 60 minutes. I mean, how often do matches go 60 minutes anymore? I mean, it's very rare, and I think people's attention span has been kind of whittled down by, television and the like. So I think it's going to be not a problem, but a challenge for the four of us to put together an hour-long story for them to follow and enjoy.
Are you looking forward to that match a lot?
Definitely. It's like when I say it's a challenge that I look forward to. I think being able to go through that and the final product is going to prove whether, not vividly, but it's something that I can point at and say, yeah, I'm good. Look, I did this. I did a 60-minute match with guys like Stanky and Low-Key and Doug Williams. It's something that I think I can be proud of.
I think another part of the challenge is just what goes on beforehand. You know what I mean? Because some of those shows ending at like 1:30 at night. If you've got 3 hours of stuff before you have to do an hour match, that's going to be tough.
Well, I don't think they're going to go to 1:30 at night. And Ring of Honor isn't, it's not like CCW where they kind of get out of control as far as the time goes. Chris, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a matter of control. It's a matter of the promoter's control over the product. When shows go like 5 hours, 6 hours, that's just the promoter not putting his foot down and saying, let's go 10 minutes, not 30.
Yeah.
It's like the first 3 matches go an hour and a half. That's when you get into main event starting at 11 p.m. And that's just a lack of control in the locker room.
Okay, Chris, we're going to head to a break right now. We're going to come back with your phone calls for Chris Daniels as well. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Time for more Wrestling Observer Live. Email the show now or anytime at WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. That's WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. Now back to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show, Wrestling Observer Live. We're here 2 hours every night. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And also, if you're looking for the most up-to-date info on pro wrestling, you can always go to WrestlingObserver.com. And there's information on how to subscribe to both the Observer and Figure 4 on the website. And I always recommend Figure 4 because it is the most entertaining read you're going to get anywhere on professional wrestling. Brian's a very talented writer.
So is Carl Gotch.
What?
So is Carl Gotch.
Frank Gotch.
Oh, Frank Gotch.
Frank Gotch.
Right.
Frank Gotch.
That's right.
He's a great writer from Beyond the Grave.
He definitely is. Brian does columns. That's right, with Frank Gotch's views on the current wrestling scene, and sometimes Frank Gotch will do a rap version too.
Yeah.
Did you see that Gotch rap, Chris?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God, awesome! It was just tremendous. But when you're you've gone all over the country and probably seen more of the best independent wrestlers than almost anyone, maybe anyone. Who are some? I mean, who would you rank as the top guys that people probably have not seen on television? When we talked about Loki and some of the other guys, and the strengths of and working with these different guys. How does how does that differ?
Well, when you say guys that people haven't seen, do you mean guys that haven't gotten like the internet push? Like
not so much internet push as much as television push. I mean, I know here people who know who Loki is, but most people haven't seen him.
Okay.
Until the last few weeks, I guess they would have.
WWE experience.
Yeah. Non-WWE guys or guys who didn't work WCW.
I would definitely Loki, American Dragon, Spanky, Samoa Joe. I mean, you pretty much take the list of guys that were involved with King of Indies and put them on the list. And that's just like the top 16 guys. There's guys like Paul London out of Texas, Trent Acid and Johnny Casimir out of Philadelphia. There's just a lot of good talent. There's just not enough room, especially with just the one company. So hopefully the NWA thing is going to open it up for guys like that, especially Loki's example. The first 4 shows, and he's, you should have been in the Coliseum hearing the reaction for Loki where I was at. It was insane.
What was it? How did you enjoy going down there Wednesday? It was your first time with NWA TNA, and you were kind of thrown in there. You were thrown in there in the main event with no interview time or anything like that. You had to follow some people that have had a lot of interview time, and angles building it up, and you guys were put in the main event. What was your thoughts on all that?
Well, I was thankful for the opportunity. I think the one thing that the NWA has going for it is it's willing to put the X Division and those guys that they think are going to be top stars and give them that opportunity to run with the ball. But it's like how he's not a heavyweight, but people know that he's entertaining. It was just he had to have that opportunity to show his stuff, and he got it. And now we're getting that opportunity to show our stuff. And so I was thankful for it, and I'm glad that they've got this attitude to kind of give us that opportunity to see what we could do out there.
Now, have you ever worked with this coming Wednesday? It's the Flying Elvises against you and Elix Skipper, and that's Flying Elvis is going to be Jorge Estrada and Sonny Siaki. Have you worked with those guys before?
No, I haven't.
So it's going to be a new thing.
Yeah. But I mean, I've seen some of their stuff, and they're both real talented guys. So I think it's going to be a good match. The 4 of us in there.
What are your thoughts as far as AJ Styles and Lotus? They've wrestled before, and you've probably seen them wrestle before, haven't you?
They wrestled at one of the Ring of Honor shows and absolutely tore it up. So I have no I have no qualms about being able to say that they're going to tear it up again. They're going to definitely be one of the hottest things on the show, if not the hottest.
A couple of months ago, and I don't even know if you saw it, but I think it was the Discovery Channel. I could be wrong on the channel, but I mean there was a special that kind of highlighted you, Mikey Henderson, John Heidenreich, and
yeah, it was the Learning Channel actually.
Look at the Learning Channel special, right? Yeah. And what were you? I mean, I watched that and I liked that show a lot. What were your thoughts? Having seen that, like accuracy and just sometimes when it's you kind of have a different viewpoint than someone just watching it for entertainment.
I enjoyed it. It was kind of ironic the time period that they covered. It was right when I got that opportunity on Nitro and then had the big injury. So it was kind of if I had my druthers, it wouldn't have been the story that I would have wanted to tell about how I got my shot and almost lost and got it anyway, But I think they covered it really well. They never really got into it was like they covered a lot of personal stuff on the other three people, but they never really got into it with me, which is cool. I mean, that's really all I had an opportunity to show them was the professional side of me. But that's so much a part of my life that it's not misrepresentation to show me just ad business. I mean, that's pretty much all I'm doing.
What ended up happening with your neck? Is it pretty much okay now, or?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, my left arm was numb for about a month and a half. I had a hard time lifting it above like shoulder level. But slowly but surely it all kind of came back. It's still kind of weak, but nothing so much that it affects me. It'll bother me when I'm working out, but like wrestling or anything like that, it doesn't bother me.
One guy who was on that special and you worked with early in his career, what are your thoughts on Mikey Henderson? Because I always thought, when I first saw him wrestle you, which was the first time that I ever saw him wrestle, I thought that, with his look and everything like that, and he was probably like 19 years old at the time, that he was going to make it, pretty big in the business. And he very well may. He did very well in Japan for 0-1. Point over there. I mean, I know, he's, what's been going on with him?
Well, I think he's got a lot of stuff going on personally. It's nothing that I could really comment on just because I don't know, like, the full story. But I know that wrestling is not the only thing going on for him. And so when opportunities come along and wrestling's not, like, the first thing on your mind, sometimes you pass him by. And I think that's what happened with Mikey. Things happened for him, and he made the decision to either wait. I know that he was looking into doing something as far as acting, and that might have been a reason why his wrestling career hasn't taken off like his, his career hasn't, it doesn't mirror the ability that he's got. The point in wrestling, no indication of how good he is. You know what I mean? So I just think he's got a lot of stuff on his plate, and not all of it is wrestling. So,
what were your feelings, coming back from New Japan for the first time?
I was real happy. I was real thrilled. I was happy that they liked my work. They liked the gimmick. The fans kind of took to me, so I was very lucky to have that opportunity. And you only get one opportunity to make a first impression, and I was lucky enough to have the matches that I had and get the reaction that I did. And it's not going to be the last time I'll be in New Japan. I can say that.
Do you know who you're wrestling on that show? It's the Budokan show.
What's that?
Do you know who you're wrestling on the Budokan show yet?
No, I don't.
Okay.
They haven't released it, I don't think.
No, nothing's been officially released at all, no, that I'm aware of. Brian, anything else before we hit the phone calls?
No, let's go to the phones.
Okay, we're going to go to Jerry in Milwaukee. Jerry, what's going on?
Hey, you guys.
Hey.
I just want to ask Chris on this. The NWA is advertising their X division as the next wave or the next revolution in wrestling, and I'm wondering, do you see yourself as as part of the new seed and everything on this? Because I even when I look at the WWF right now, the guys who interest me the most, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like what we labeled as cruiserweights, but like Kurt Angle, like Chris Jericho, the guys who are athletic, who are flexible, who can move in the ring and without the big physiques, but who can go nonstop. Do you see that? Do you see do you see this type of wrestling going over across as far as into the mainstream?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the thing that's going to make it go or not go is the writing, the angles that are put across, because the wrestling's not in question. It's never a question of whether somebody like ring. It's whether the storylines that we're going to get these people interested in that keep them wanting to come back and order these shows or keep watching the show, if those are going to be compelling enough. The wrestling's not in question. I personally think that if I'm given an opportunity and given the right kind of storyline, I mean, because how many times have people said, hey, this guy would be great if they could get him a storyline that people would follow? You know, there's so many times that people were, oh, this guy's great, but they don't put him on television enough or whatever.
Right.
You know, I just feel like if I'm given that opportunity to talk on a microphone, to get in the ring and do what I can do, I think I can produce interesting wrestling television. So
that's what I've always thought too. Because whenever I've seen it, more exciting, it's more filled than just having two guys. I don't want to stereotype, but two guys who are just muscled, you know, doing a grunt match almost. And it just, I never understood why bookers or why people who are in charge of wrestling companies don't go to this style, because it's more exciting. It involves the fans more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like there should be a little bit for a lot of different styles. You know, I wouldn't want any promotion to be only one style, if you know what I'm saying.
But it's always been tilted to the big guys.
Well, certainly WWE, of course.
The airport thing we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I mean WWE has Vince McMahon's a big guy. It grew up with, and it's what he thinks wrestling is. I mean, people have tried to talk to him, but when you've got your mind, you know, like just you've grown up in a certain way and you think that's what wrestling is, it's kind of hard to see a smaller guy as a great wrestler, and that's something that they got to break through on. But we've got to head to a commercial break right now. We're going to be back with more with Chris Daniels right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER. That's 1-866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're here for 2 hours every Sunday night with Wrestling Observer Live. Our special guest today is Christopher Daniels. We've got a full bank of phone calls. And let's go to Zach in Houston, Texas. Zach, how are you tonight?
Doing good, gentlemen. Konbanwa. Boy, you know it's bad when the prank callers make you nostalgic for the pot banger.
I don't know about that.
Just a couple quick things. I'd like to say I'm a big fan of Mr. Daniels, but I haven't seen him that much. Love him in Fire Pro Wrestling, though.
Oh, in the game?
Yeah. First of all, do you think that Vince and whomever else is smart enough to realize that Undertaker pinned at Vengeance? Or do you think they're dumb enough to do something like put Rock over Angle to protect The Undertaker?
I don't have an answer to that question because I have no idea what they're going to do. So I guess we will find it. We'll find out on Sunday.
Yeah, but that's just the worst possible thing they could do at this point, I think.
No, the worst possible thing they could do is leave it on Undertaker.
That's true.
But
oh God, could you imagine Undertaker and Brock Lesnar on a SummerSlam main event?
I'm trying not to.
Yeah, you're right. That would be the worst thing they could do.
But that and one other quick thing. It seems like other than Lesnar and Raw really has nobody left at the top. We get Booker T and Goldust versus the NWO every week, and Lesnar and RVD. And even though all of those characters are main eventing Raw, they're not being treated like main eventers. And I think that's one of the big problems, well, that and the fact that...
Well, there's two things. I mean, number one, Austin left.
Yeah.
Without them knowing, without, them having built up a successor because they didn't expect it to happen. And then number two, they had them with Flair. I mean, I don't say a problem with Flair, but as much as, Flair didn't want to go on the road 20 days a month. So therefore they knew that Flair wasn't going to be the guy. So they're forced into, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and Brock Lesnar as being key guys. Then Nash went down, who they were counting on to be a top guy. So it's a weak side.
How scary is that too?
That they were counting on Nash. It was a bad move to be counting on him.
Very.
Because it was going to happen. It was a question of just when, not if.
But what I was trying to say is it's not so much that those guys are what they're left with that's the problem, as every week even a month after Austin's gone, they'd be treating them like these are the main event guys who aren't main event guys.
I know what you're saying. There's something about the WWE where there's this thing where Undertaker and The Rock and a couple of the other guys, Hunter, they are considered top guys, and for whatever reason Nash is, and I think that they kind of do also with Angle.
Right.
But some of the other guys, you can see that they don't have that full confidence in them, and they even if they don't, they have to pretend that they do, I guess is the best way to say it.
Okay, I'll let y'all go so you can get to someone else. I'll just say this, though. They need to do something brutally awful to Spike next Sunday night.
Okay.
Have a night. Not because there's anything wrong with him, but because otherwise no one will ever take those guys seriously as a threat to anyone else.
Okay, we're going to get going.
Right.
We're going to go to Tom in Sacramento. Tom, how are you tonight?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing really good.
Okay, I just wanted to get a comment to Christopher Daniels. I just watched your, this is the first time I saw you was this last Wednesday on NWA TNA, and you, and in particular you and Low-Key, you really took the show. I just wanted to thank you for a great performance. You guys have got me interested now in purchasing some Ring of Honor tapes.
Great. You won't go wrong with the Ring of Honor tapes, believe me.
Oh, really?
Oh my! The main, I mean, every Ring of Honor show, the top matches, the ones with the names, they all deliver. They're long, they're good, they're innovative. I mean, just really great stuff.
There's a lot more on those tapes than just me and Low-Key. I mean...
Yeah, I know. I've heard the names like American Dragons
going on in Ring of Honor than just me and Low-Key, definitely.
I'll tell you what, that last show, the last Ring of Honor show was tremendous because they had guys, coming in from all over like Doug Williams and Jody Fleisch and Johnny Storm. Those guys wrestled a different style than everybody else. It was more of a lucha style, but they were spectacular, and it wasn't even probably their best match. There's because sometimes I think that people think that in say All Japan or New Japan or WWE that somehow the quality of the guys may not be the top, but when you watch these guys doing long matches and solid matches and telling a story and not it's not a collection of good moves, it's not just that. A lot of independent stuff sometimes is, and this stuff is anything but that.
Cool. Sounds very good. I got a quick question about Takayama.
Mm-hmm.
After his, the big deal with Fry, I didn't get to see it. I've just heard rave reviews about that particular fight. Is there any, rumblings about maybe making him the next Global Honored Crown Champ?
I haven't heard anything in that direction at all, but it would not be the worst idea because he would be far better than the champion they have right now.
Are they now, that was another question. Are they going to potentially go with, was it Takeshi Rikio?
Rikio's wrestling Ogawa on, and I don't know the date, but it's the next big show. And I don't know I don't know where they're going in that match, but it doesn't really matter because to me it's like, how can these two guys be going for the global title when you have all that talent in the promotion? And I don't see either of them at that level.
Ogawa and Taui.
Well, yeah, but Taui's another one. But it's like, you've got Akiyama, and you've got, even though Misawa's not what he once was, he's still a name, and he's, and he's a legend. And then you've got, some of these guys like, Vader's a legend over there, and you've got, a lot of good work. And even like a Takayama or an Omori, even though Omori didn't really have his best match on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
But Ogawa is just, I don't know, it's shocking.
Yeah, but just with Takayama, I just figured there was better matches there. If you get Takayama and, like I said, Misawa, because that's a rematch from the finals.
Yeah, and they had a great match the first time.
And then there's Takayama versus, maybe even Kobashi. I don't know if Kobashi's going to be able to go, but, And then there's Takayama Vader.
And Takayama Vader, Takayama Akiyama. And you know what else? Takayama, because of his style, also can work very well with Morishima and Rikio.
Yeah. A quick question about Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yes.
And his push. Well, from what I see, is kind of a push because they're doing the clips on SmackDown. You know, he's coming kind of deal. Is this because maybe because of the X Division and how they're, you know, that's kind of like, I don't want to say they're exactly a threat yet, but it's the one thing that NWA TNA has over WWE, and maybe is this kind of like their response to that? You know?
It's not, because they were planning on doing this stuff with Mysterio from the beginning, but I do think that the X Division, if NWA TNA, you know, starts to become even more of a force, and the X Division, if they do it, the X Division will be the key reason why. That the WWE will react the same way when WCW's Cruiserweight started getting good. WWE did try to play catch-up because everyone goes, hey, you need to do this. So if it gets over, they will do more with it for sure.
If I've learned one thing from WCW, though, it's that Vince will hear this stuff, but he's not watching it. And, you know, I mean, he's going to hear about the Sex Division and everything like that, but he may respond by doing maybe a Cruiserweight match here and there, but I can't see him trying to bring these guys in or anything.
Okay, but the other thing is, too, is no matter what, I don't see, even if the X Division, best on pay-per-view, I don't see any...
Good work on the newsletters, guys. And good work in the ring, Christopher.
Thank you very much. And can I be the first person on Wrestling Observer Live at Modest to be the next GA team? Would that be all right?
Sure, you can do that. He's a great wrestler.
Don't make Modest. That's who I want the belt on.
Yeah. Let's go to Dan in Philadelphia. Dan, what's going on?
How you doing today, guys?
Doing great.
I want to ask you a question about NWA TNA, a TV deal possibly on Fox. Or USA?
It's going to be tough. I mean, I wouldn't say impossible.
Don't make Modest. That's who I want the belt on.
Yeah. Let's go to Dan in Philadelphia. Dan, what's going on?
How you doing today, guys?
Doing great.
I want to ask you a question about NWA TNA.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any chance that they can get a TV deal possibly on Fox or USA?
It's going to be tough. I mean, I wouldn't say impossible, but... You know, TV stations are not jumping at wrestling, and there's a lot of reasons why. I don't know, and no one knows. But there's that reputation that wrestling does not appeal. You know, rich people don't watch wrestling, so therefore, even though wrestling gets good ratings, the sponsors won't pay as time, so therefore it's not as valuable as the ratings show. And it's an unfortunate stigma that wrestling's probably always had and always will have. Fox hasn't seemed to show any interest in wrestling, and they had a chance to get, you know, to basically steal WCW last year and did not jump at it. USA, I mean, if you get a new program director and he says, you know, I want wrestling, it's this business. So much of it depends on who's in charge of TV stations at a certain time. You know, more than like what style is good and things like that. I mean, if you get if USA Network goes through a change and there's a program director and he grew up as a wrestling fan. Yes, there's obviously a chance. You know, till then, who knows?
I have another question about Chris Benoit.
Sure.
What is going on? I mean, it seems like when he left before he got hurt, he was main eventing King of the Ring, and it seemed like he was getting his highest push ever. And he comes back right away off this big injury, and immediately he's turned into a mid-card player.
He was very unlucky because he was brought in to feud with Austin, and then Austin was gone, and then they wanted to feud him with Flair, and then they decided not to do that, so... You know, they're weak on that top thing, so they're just trying to fit him in. They're trying to fit everyone in on Raw. I think no one really knows what's going on with Raw, to be honest.
And one final question, Dave. Are you going to have Tom Zank on the show anytime soon?
It's a possibility. He's not booked, like, in the next week or two. I have, like, a list of people that I want to get on that we're backlogged on, to be honest.
I heard he has a book coming out. He thought...
You know, I just talked to him last night about that, and he was talking to me about it. I don't know if he's actually started writing it or not, but
Actually, he has started writing it.
He has started writing? Okay. Yeah, he was talking a little bit about it and everything. So.
Should make for a good book with his stories.
He's got a lot of experience. He's certainly not afraid to talk.
He's outspoken.
Yeah, he's outspoken. Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Great job on the show. Great job with your newsletters.
Okay, thanks very much. we have one last break to hit, and then we're going to try to get to a couple calls when we come back for Chris Daniels. We'll be back with more. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
For more Wrestling Observer Live, email the show now or anytime at WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. That's WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. Now, back to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the final segment of the show here on Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez, editor of Figure 4 Weekly, and Christopher Daniels, who will be wrestling this coming Wednesday night on the NWA TNA pay-per-view, teaming with Elix Skipper against the Flying Elvises. The show also includes a ladder match with Jeff Jarrett against Malice, and a match between AJ Styles and Low Key that I know that Brian and I bet a lot of people listening, are very much looking forward to, because the X Division has kind of been stealing the show, and it's Wednesday night on pretty much most of the pay-per-view carriers, except for those of you who are living in Canada. Unfortunately, can't get it. Chris, with wrestling, with you having wrestled all over the world for the most part, and seeing, lucha style, living in California and everything, is there anything that, like you see with the current American scene that you would want to change, or that you think is kind of like not being used or something like that, that's kind of something lost or something?
Or being overused.
Yeah, or something, maybe even overused, yeah.
You mean on the indies as opposed to on, like, the national stage?
I would say more on the national stage than the indies, but even on the indies as well. Something on the indies that maybe people are missing as well, or something that they do too much of. I don't know.
Well, as far as the national stage, I think maybe the thing that's going on is that there's too much. I don't know. There's a tendency to go towards more comedy than there is for actual like competitive drama. Not drama like Willie Live or Willie Die, but the drama of being in the hunt for the belt, being in the hunt for a particular whatever your goal is. I think there's a tendency to go towards comedy right now, and it's hard to. And this is just my opinion. This doesn't mean anything farther than me, but I think it's hard to take the athleticism of wrestling seriously. A lot of the stuff is based on, like, getting laughs. You know what I mean? So as far as the national stage, I think maybe there's a little too much ha-ha going on. But, like I said, that's my opinion.
Okay, we are actually out of time. Chris, I want to thank you very much. I want to wish you good luck on your match on Wednesday and your match on the 27th, which is a big match. Your tour of Japan and everything else you're doing, and we would love to get you back in a month or two and talk about everything that's happened in the interim.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'll be happy to come back on anytime you want me.
Okay, great. And I want to thank everyone for listening on the show. We'll be back next Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, with Wrestling Observer Live. This is the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.